What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the debut album by rapper Vanilla Ice. Basically, this product is called To the Extreme, and it came out in the late summer of 1990. So the thing about this particular product is just the fact that Vanilla Ice was a staple out of the early 90s in terms of rap music and has one of the highest-selling rap albums of all time with this particular product. Basically, the single Ice Ice Baby was the song that hit #1 and is still a defining song by, I mean, obviously there have been further quality rap songs within the past 35 years within that relative pitch, but I still would have to say this is a very impactful one of the initial kickstarts that got rap music. I want to say this is one of the first rap song #1s from like this period. I would have to say. I want to say that there were definitely some big hits in like the 80s with like Run DMC and Beastie Boys, Public Enemy, some of those type folks, NWA, a bunch of folks like that. But Vanilla Ice was one of the ones that crossed over into like more commercial type thresholds and just had a little bit more pop rap type appeal. He was kind of like Nelly and Flo Rida before those particular folks are kind of around in like the 2000s and 2010s, I'd say. And it's the same thing with MC Hammer, those particular type folks. I mean, obviously, you had the like more controversy in political rap groups like Public Enemy, Ice Cube, NWA, some of those type folks, and like Rage Against the Machine, some of those type folks. Then you had like more kind of this rock rap type stuff like Run DMC and Cypress Hill and some of those type folks. But I would basically feel like Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer were like trying to get like the pop rap type feel and get it to more commercial type markets, and they definitely succeeded. I mean, Vanilla Ice succeeded pretty wholesome. Vanilla Ice succeeded pretty wholesomely on this particular product. The song Ice Ice Baby, like I was saying, was a huge song. Just pretty much was like still continues to be a staple out of the 90s decades. It's one of those songs that you think about when you think of that decade in its entirety. Just a lot of damage. And it does have some other follow-up type singles. It does have some other follow-up type singles, but for the most part, the girth of this product is based on the quality of like the Ice Ice Baby song. But I look after it. The main thing about this product is just the fact that it's kind of, I do feel like Vanilla Ice is kind of pigeonholed into being like a one-hit wonder in a lot of senses as far as those pitches going to happen with it. He just had a lot of relative. I mean, it's just kind of the concept that obviously his hit singles were pretty good, but I just think that the makeup of this particular product is just different because for the most part, I think probably apart from Ice Ice Baby and possibly like a mild second follow up single and play that funky music, for the most part, most people probably do not gravitate to a lot of the other songs on this project. Folks do not normally gravitate to other songs off this particular project. It's not to say that there's not any folks to just within it, but just within the likelihood, especially nowadays, it's like the dust is settled and pitches like that. I'd say for the most part, it mainly just deals with the Vanilla Ice singles. But yeah, I'm going to review this product to kind of showcase and shed some light on some of the other type hits because this is damn near a classic here. I definitely feel like me just being able to say out of 12 songs on this particular album, I'll end up recommending 10, which is pretty excellent type pitch, all but on the cusp of getting like a classic score, is what I'd say within the approach behind it. But this is pretty overall vicious type product just to be able to get it. I realize the factoid that obviously I realize the factoid that the girth of the traffic towards this album is probably going to go towards Ice Ice Baby and pitches like that with maybe like some mild traces that play that funky music, despite the fact that that was a top 5 single. But I look after it, yeah, it's just kind of the concept of this project being pigeonholed into like its atmosphere as to what it is. I mean, I feel like Vanilla Ice nowadays, he is kind of an entrepreneur in a sense, but he is kind of almost like a parody of his rap career, considering the fact that both him and MC Hammer kind of, I don't want to say they went bankrupt full blown, but it was just kind of the concept that they were outdone indelibly by most of their peers within the later decades as far as those pitches kind of happen. But Vanilla Ice has managed to continue to have like some revere within the aspect behind it. He's kind of joined mildly like the Juggalo fold and pitches like that. He does have like a certain kind of like outlandish kind of cool factor about him that's just different from when you think of rappers from like otherwise from like the 90s, like when you think of like standard folks like Public Enemy and just like more traditional 90s rappers like Mace and Puff Daddy and some of those type folks just within the pitch behind it. It's just kind of an affable type sense. The same thing with MC Hammer. He's kind of within the rock type community as far as pitches like that can happen just between him sampling like with his single Can't Touch This. So it's just some pitches like that, but they just had that offhanded type of appeal. It was a good pitch. This is damn near a classic, I'd have to say, and this overall has the aspect of just being something severe. So yeah, there were 3 singles off this project, and basically the first single was Ice Ice Baby. This is like a classic 90s defining staple. Ice Ice Baby is like a classic 90s defining staple, an iconic, great throwback song to kind of get here as like a club pounder and easy dance gem to kind of get. So look after this particular one. Really right down to the beat production, the dun 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 dun. It just kind of has like that signature type sound, very distinct type song to kind of get here just within the pitch behind it. Just continues to be a real, I mean, for the most part, this is kind of seen as like a retro song just within the aspect of how it actually has its affability behind it. But I just look after like the tone. This particular song, this is one I do want to say that this is one of the first #1 singles in rap music as far as those pitches kind of happen. This has a lot of affable bounce about it. Just overall, the appeal behind it's pretty strong. Paved the way for a lot of things and just really embraced like things within the tone of being like commercial rap within the aspect behind it. Because I look after it. I don't know, rap in the 80s, apart from like Beastie Boys and Public Enemy and a little bit of NWA, was just kind of seen as more just kind of like not so much hardcore, but just kind of in like alternative type territory compared to like metal, like glam metal, hair metal, some of those type ones, just 80s rock, some of that type of stuff that was kind of going on between like the mid 80s when rap was kind of forming up as far as those pitches can happen. But this is a real Apple type one. This classic type song going to get here and just deserve to hit #1. Play That Funky Music is the second single. Now, this is a very underappreciated song, but this is a great follow up to it. I feel like the impact of this song is just not commonly talked about. That Play That Funky Music was a song that hit top five, but hit #4 on the Billboard 100 as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just a real nice one. It's like a superb and kind of underrated follow up single and fellow top 5 hit. I would definitely have to say about this one. This is just like some continued dance flavor. So there are a ton of songs on this particular album that have that dance type flavor. This is a pretty affable type party type album just to be able to get within those aspects. I'd have to say, just continues to have like that. This real nice bounce about it. Kind of reminds. I feel like Vanilla Ice is like the 90s version of Mac Miller from like the early 2010s, I'd have to say. Just the concept when you think of albums by Mac Miller and like the college rap type front, just between like Macadelic and Blue Slide Park and some of those type ones. The mixtape with like Donald Trump, the song on there, some of those type pitches with Mac Miller was just real frat party schmoozing and just pitches like that, just the affable campus type music. I feel like some of these type songs, there's some ones on here like Ice Ice Baby, Play That Funky Music, Go Ill, It's a Party, Ice Cold, some of these type ones Ice is working. A lot of these kind of particularly have like just a standard kind of just campus type party, just pitches of like localized type fun, just with an aspect of just more kind of suburb type bops just within the pitch behind it. It's not so much. Like, I do feel like there's the occasional nightclub bop, but I just think nightclubs back in 1990, 1991 just had a different aspect where it's just a lot more kind of. I mean, this is also before the Chronic and Doggy Style, some of those type pitches just within the concept. So, obviously dance clubs back in those days were just more do not so much do up, but just kind of more hop and bop, vanilla esque, just within the tone behind it. Obviously, there wasn't horrorcore too much full blown and pitches like that where just would have had a nastier kind of veneer. So a lot of this Ice Ice Baby, Play That Funky Music. These are pretty vanilla type songs, not just to say, not just because of the pun of Vanilla Ice, but they're just vanilla, just within the tone behind it. But it's a great 1-2 punch, real excellent 1-2 punch. These two songs, just, but I do feel like Play That Funky Music's underappreciated. And then I Love You is the third single. So I just look at this is a good quality follow up song to kind of get here, and this is just a nice kind of rap ballad, which is not common for rap music to kind of have within that particular tone in terms of like a rap song being kind of ballad esque. It's like a nicely emphatic and strengthy kind of rap ballad song to kind of get here. Good dreary kind of romantic bop to kind of have, and this is just like a vintage solid bite to kind of have just within the impact behind it. So yeah, this real Apple type one, real rosy type song kind of get, this real nice romantic type one, good easy kind of boo and bay type song kind of have just within the pitches behind it. This real nice tone. This really has some good appeal about it. Rounded out the album in terms of the promotion of this particular product, but then really the promotion cycle about this product, there weren't a ton of albums back in 1990 and pitches like that that really got past like the second single. Most of the time albums 1987, 1990, 1992 were kind of just one hit wonders or two hit wonders. When you think of like, even Tupac with Tupacalypse Now only had like two hits off there. Brenda's Got a Baby and I Don't Give a Fuck, some of those type ones. Cypress Hill had, well, I guess Cypress Hill had a few more, but like Sir Mix-a-Lot had Baby Got Back, and then he didn't really have too many follow-up hits. He had like that. Like I forget the second single, but it's like Swap Meet Louie, something like that, one of those type pitches. NWA would have hits, but it's just kind of within the tone. It's just a good aspect of this. Is a pretty balanced type project. So obviously it getting to 7 times platinum. I thought this album went diamond, but I think it's actually MC Hammer that went diamond. This is pretty damn close. This is definitely a pretty multi-platinum type project, but it's just kind of the concept that it just balanced out the project, and this was a big deal for about the first several years of the 90s. But yeah, just being able to say I mean, if you're looking after this album with like casual appeal, then yeah, it's tough to kind of top the singles. For the most part, I've owned this album for several years now, and for the longest time up to like recently, just with me reviewing this product, I did not give many songs apart from that very much of a try. You have to kind of give it like a deep dive to appreciate this particular product. If you come to it just looking for like the number ones, the number twos, pitches like that, then you're not going to find much apart from Ice Ice Baby and play that funky music. Those are like the good 1-2 punch, and this album does have that pretty vicious kind of 1-2 punch with those two singles. But in terms of like other pounding type ones, you have to kind of flesh it out a little bit more and just not expect like casual discontinued bops just within that aspect. But it's just kind of they don't have they have distinction, but in terms of like the commercial, in terms of like the commercial type appeal, something like Ice Ice Baby, that's like a defining 90s song that just stretches across decades. It may not have that as full blown, but a lot of this is just some great frat type music, pitches like that. I just would have to say just good concepts of this, like localized type bops, just to be able to get with like some mid some I mean, this is kind of a big city type album. I think Vanilla Ice is from Miami, just within that pitch, but just like suburb kind of posting up, just hop and bop type tones, big city type bounces, and just localized get supplies pitches like that, pick up some smokers, some of those type fares. Just what I'd say, just more local type of fares, Taco Bell runs, some of those type pitches, just kind of the concept behind it. But yeah, so the only two songs I don't recommend off this album would just be Rasta Man and Life is a Fantasy. And to talk about both those, basically Life is a Fantasy, this kind of Life is a Fantasy was kind of a trippy type one, which is kind of an interesting type aspect. The two songs on here that I did not choose as far as songs I recommend were both kind of relatively trippy type songs, but just the appeal behind these. It's interesting kind of get a vanilla album from someone like a standard commercial kind of pop rapper like Vanilla Ice, kind of having some of these trippy type fares, because it just doesn't really have the aspect. This really feels like almost like a head trip type tone for Life is a Fantasy and Rasta Man, but I didn't connect with these songs as much. I kind of feel like the ofteness to how much I'd listen to them was just not that high. But basically, yeah, that's the concept behind Life is a Fantasy. And it's about the same thing with Rasta Man. It was just kind of one that just didn't have as much appeal towards it, just within the tone behind it. I mean, most of this album has a pretty good social bounce about it, just within the tone of being out and about. There's not too many songs for sitting around. There's not too many songs for just sitting around the house watching TV, pitches like that, just settling in for the night, just standard go home, and that's basically it. Just standard home and go home, and that's basically it, I'd have to say. But it's this kind of concept that Ross amended. I'll go ahead and talk about some of these other songs I recommend on here. So Go Ill is a pretty quality one. It's like a snazzy kind of big city frat noise. I'd have to feel like 90s loud pack, definitely. I feel like about this one, and quality flavor, I'd have to say. It's like a high grade kind of social and local craze of a song kind of get here. So this one just kind of feels, this is a sample that's been done. Mac Miller did this. Mac Miller did this particular one on Blue Side Park in the early 2010s, as far as those pitches kind of happened. It's a common, frequent sample to kind of get, but it's an excellent type one. This really has that snazzy type of appeal. This really like the jazz band type stuff that kind of goes along with it. Just a real nice city hop, local frat noise to kind of get. Stop That Train is an in between kind of throwback out and about noise to kind of get here. It's like some evening commerce kind of hop and bop. I'd have to say about this one. This is just like good for, this would be good for some everyday tracks to kind of have just within that pitch behind it. So this is just basic like basic kind of city hop type one, standard fare, a little bit of more sunny late day type commerce just within the pitch behind it. Just feels great for like ripped out of like 90s Miami type flair and pitches like that. Just I'd say just some standard goodies and errands just within the pitch behind it. The standard, yeah, it's good concepts for like some summer commerce just within that. Good concept for that. Hooked is a quality one as well. It's like a woozy kind of, Hooked is a nice one as well. It's like a woozy kind of big city traversing. I'd say about this one, just some lackadaisical kind of 90s sledge here. I'd say about it. Good story song kind of get, homies music definitely, and a good smoke out type song kind of have. It's a good concept where Vanilla Ice picks up the microphone. Good concept where Vanilla Ice slides into the pilot seat and tells a story just within the pitch behind about folks who get hooked on some sleazy women as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just good concept as far as that particular kind of happens. It's basic hangout type fare. Just reminds us of something just ripped out of 91, 92, just pitched like that, just with like the more kind of like J-Lo kind of Fly Girls type vibes, like In Living Color, some of those type pitches as far as that particular kind of goes with it. Just feels really 90s, almost, I don't want to say cheesy 90s, but definitely just feels like 90s hangout like commercial type fare with some of that type aspects behind it. Just a good pitch. Good stuff there. Ice is working. It's another real glitzy type one. It's like a snazzy kind of city hop and conduit night venue commerce. I'd have to say about this particular one. It's like some work shift unwind, I'd have to say, in a good flip mode kind of spiciness kind of get here. Just a good concept for this. This particular one goes pretty well with Stop That Train as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just some more kind of 90s commercial type fare just within the aspect. It's real, like the overall jazziness of this particular product. Just has a lot of good afterbilly, but a lot of these, just the concept. I feel like some of the more immediate type ones, if you are looking for like those pitches as far as what's like the go-to ones after Ice Ice Baby, if you wonder what some immediate ones to go for after like the two singles, I would definitely say actually Go Ill is probably one of the best ones on here for that. And I'd probably say Ice is Working. It's a pretty jazzy type one to kind of get a little bit more in between type fare, but it is a relatively snazzy type one. I would say Dancing is a quality one as well. It's like a basic kind of night venue wave maker. I'd have to say about this one goes with Ice Ice Baby and funk, play that funky music. I would definitely feel like it's like an extra kind of backup tune to kind of get crazy too. So this one's a little bit more, it's kind of like a basic kind of vanilla type bop you kind of get here. Just more of like stock extra noise to kind of have, but it is just like an extra kind of highlight to have for like some dance club kind of noise as far as that particular kind of goes. Just look after it. Some good stuff there. Just kind of a lot of these, like most of these songs on here are just standard dance craze of a night. Just stock goes last through the whole night as far as those pitches gonna happen. Just you can play the whole album damn near as like this, and within the aspect this relative replay value within that's this overall social type product, especially for early 90s type crazes to bring it back to that in like a throwback sense. It's a Party is a quality one. It's like a breezy kind of club hit and vibey kind of sample on here. Reminds you of something. I've heard this particular song. I don't know who particularly did it. I probably wouldn't put it in the connotation because I just don't remember as much. But it's like It Takes Two to Make a Lot of Time, something like that. I don't remember that particular song, but something like that. It has that same kind of jazzy type bop, something that NWA would have done like the late 80s, early 90s pitches like that, but also some Vanilla Ice. I mean, Vanilla Ice has a lot of good samples on here. He has a pretty affable type taste in music as far as knowing the right songs to kind of get this create like this overall house party, hangout, and dance club type energy as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just he nails these particular vibes well. This is like a further kind of dance highlight and blossom kind of turn up. I'd have to say about some of this in particular. Just some good concepts for that, and this pretty durable song, and most of this album's pretty durable within the pitch. I mean, I look after it, it probably will take you back to 1991, 1993, but I look after the tone behind it. A lot of these do have like a lot of staying power. Uh, I kind of feel like thinking of Vanilla Ice in like the early 90s is kind of like thinking of disco in the 70s. It's just within that pitch. It is a little bit throwback, but a lot of these do continue to just have like some. I mean, the beats are just a little bit more skeletal on here, but it is a good concept. It's still better produced than things like than certain boom bap type records and pitches like that. Because as much as it may seem like it, this record is not really boom bap, but I'd say it's skeletal and it just kind of has like the basic muscle layering for some of this, but it's not really as boom bap as much as the stuff that was going on around this time. This is actually a lot glossier. This knocks it out compared to albums when you think of pre The Chronic and Doggy Style and Niggas for Life by NWA and Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and some of those type folks. This kind of the concept that this actually has a lot of good gloss and feel. Just well produced, I'd have to say. And then Ice Cold is a quality one. It's like a skeletal and basic kind of night vibe. I'd have to say crunked out kind of spice that this song has some crunked out spice. I'd have to say about it as far as that goes. Along with that, this particular song goes with It's a Party, and this is just like an affable kind of social mood to kind of get here as far as that kind of goes. Just some good pitches for that. Just would have to say within that tone. So it's just another stock hit to kind of get with that. So that's the pitch behind this particular album as far as that kind of goes along with that. Yeah, I talked about Go Ill. So just within the pitch behind this particular album. So the score I'm going to give this album, me recommending 10 songs out of 12 on here. I'm going to give this album like a 9.5 out of 10. I just look after the full blown aspects as far as that particular kind of goes along with that. All but on the cusp of being a classic. I realize in some senses I've given albums like 10 out of 10. I don't know. I mean, I look after it's just the concept that, I mean, it's just within the relative verge, just being able to say, but it's just kind of in between because you look after it a 9 out of 12 would probably be like an 8.75 somewhere in that relative territory because that's 3/4 of the album, just to say. Because you look after it, 6 out of 12 would be like a 5. So to go from 6 out of 12 to 9 out of 12, going from like a 5 out of 10 to like a 9.5 out of 10. It's just kind of the concept. So I just feel like 10 out of 12 would be like a 9.5 out of 10 as far as that particular one goes. Just I recognize the viciousness of this album, and it's very impactful. Definitely a statement making album from the early 90s and defining album that did a lot for rap music and paved the way, making it more commercial pitches like that between him and MC Hammer, some of those type ones. Just had the things going, had the talkable type songs, and just made things more mainstream just within the tone. Great 1-2 punch with some of these dance club songs. Ice Ice Baby's a defining hit, trend setting 90s culture just in a nutshell. Play That Funky Music's an underappreciated follow up. I Love You's like a good rap ballad that's kind of underappreciated in a lot of a lot of senses. It's very underrated type song. Singles are all pretty excellent. I would say that there's some further songs in here just to be able to go for this whole album. Like I was saying, is a dance party. So yeah, the social score is going to get a 10 out of 10 though. But this whole album, to talk about some of these immediate ones, this is a dance party. Go Ill, Ice is working it. It's a party. Some of these type ones would be some extra type ones to kind of go for within that sense. There's some real nice ones kind of get here. Hooked is a pretty quality story song, great one to smoke to with your pals as far as pitches like that kind of happen. There are some ones for just like some hop and bop type in between Taco Bell run type moments and gas station runs like Stop That Train, and Ice is working at some of those type ones I'd have to say. So it's just within the pitch. But yeah, the social score gets a 10 out of 10. There's plenty of blistering dancey as far as those pitches kind of happen. It's real stylish type one. It's really, I mean, in some senses, it may come off as cheesy for folks that think the 90s is cheesy nowadays. But look after it's just a very, has the bops on here. It's just basically like Mac Miller back in like the early 90s as far as those pitches kind of happen. Frat type music, local type Travers pitches like that. Just some good Apple type snap to be able to get here. So it's a good concept for that. In terms of the future, like Vanilla Ice has not put out projects since like the early mid 2000s as far as those pitches can happen. I mean, he's obviously a product. He's been around since the 80s. That's 35, almost 40 years as far as that particular kind of happens. So it's just an aspect. This is damn near a classic. I mean, some folks may say it's only good for the singles and he's kind of a one hit wonder, but I wouldn't pay attention. It's just something you have to do a deep dive with and just be able to say that the aspect behind it is a relic and a gem that's worth investing in.